before we continue, I know the studio's cold. I would have given you my jacket. You didn't, it's a lovely white jacket that you put on, but I would have given you mine.
I like the temperature right now. Well, all right, moving on. In Syria, aid groups say the civilian death toll in the past 2 days has doubled to 49 people killed. That number also includes at least 9 children found dead in an underground shelter.
President Bashar al-Assad is ratcheting up a military onslaught to retake rebel areas in the country's southwest. And according to war monitors, a new humanitarian and refugee crisis in Syria is emerging. I24NEWS Middle East correspondent Emily Rose has the latest.
Dozens have been killed, and up to 50,000 people have been displaced by the most recent escalation in Dara, eastern Syria, and civilians remain under fire. But the most recent escalation could go far beyond a humanitarian crisis. Civilians have fled to the border with Jordan, seeking refuge, but the Hashemite kingdom refused. Jordan already hosts some 660,000 registered Syrian refugees, one of the catalysts for its dire economic state, which sparked protests earlier this month. It also fears Islamic State militants creeping in over the border. President Bashar al-Assad sought to retake the region after declaring victory in a bloody assault on eastern Ghouta in April. He could be aiming to control the strategically vital part of Syria just over the border with Jordan and Israel. One growing cause of concern for Israel is Iranian-backed Shiite militias, similar to Hezbollah, fighting so close to its border. With a meeting scheduled in July between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, a diplomatic solution may be on the horizon.
I think we'll be talking about Syria. I think we'll be talking about Ukraine. I think we'll be talking about many other subjects.
But for now, civilians remain trapped. Emily Rose, I24NEWS.
To further discuss, let's bring in Andrew Tabler, Senior Fellow and Syria expert at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Andrew, thank you for joining us. It seems that southwestern Syria, the area of Dara and Quneitra, is about to become a second eastern Ghouta. How bad is the violence over there? Why is this area so significant to President Assad?
Well, the traditional invasion route into the Syrian capital is from this area. Damascus is most vulnerable from the south. It's also the area that the Syrian uprising started in 2011, so it has quite a bit of symbolic meaning, particularly to the opposition. Assad wants this because, he has been listening to Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin believes there is a deal with the Israelis and the Jordanians to allow his forces to come to the border in exchange for some kind of promise to keep Iranian forces out of the area. And that has been the source of debate for the last few months over the southwestern zone.
Andrew, we're having a little problem with our audio. I don't know if you've got a microphone and might be able to move it a little bit closer, but we'll give it another shot here. In terms of what the Russians see in all of this, as we were talking in our last segment, I mean, this was supposed to be a de-escalation zone. So how do the Russians benefit by now essentially saying to Assad, go ahead and try to bomb the remaining rebels there into submission?
It's because they believe that they have a deal struck with Jordan and Israel, that no resistance will come to their operations in that area, and no resistance will come from the United States, which was not going to militarily intervene there anyway. So they believe they have buy-in. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening.
All right, Andrew Tabler, he's the Senior Fellow and Syria expert of the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Andrew, thank you. Tal, what do you make of the humanitarian crisis that's going on there?
Well, Jordan David is saying we cannot simply take in more refugees. The official numbers of people that have taken in since the outset of the war in Syria is around 700,000 people, and the unofficial number is more like 1.3 million refugees from Syria. The border between Jordan and Syria has been closed back in 2014, and they keeping it closed right now, coming under heavy criticism from international organizations. It's just too heavy on the economy, they say.
And in just the last week, it's been something like 50,000 people who have already left, and there are hundreds of thousands more that are now expected to leave as the fighting continues to intensify. And again, these reports that just 9 children were just killed today by these errant Syrian regime airstrikes. So the civilians have no guarantee of safety, even if the regime says it's targeting the rebels. And of course, no place though for them to go if they can't go to Jordan.
Yeah, with the help of the Russians, we should also mention, and in defiance of a U.S. State Department warning of repercussions. So Assad is gaining back many parts of Syria. He's gained back the heart of the country. He has one more pocket in the northwest, the Idlib province, and the southwest, as we see that he's trying to gain back this area now. Now, there's a question, David, to what extent he can spread his forces and also keep his foothold in the areas that he's conquered, because that's also a challenge.
Such a great point, and maybe particularly symbolic value, this one, because as our guest said, this is where the uprising started 7 years ago.
Right. Coming up on Crossroads, the Deputy Attorney General faced another day of tough grilling on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers are accusing him of hiding information from Congress in the Russia investigation.
Plus, the tanks might look the same, but the gender of the drivers has changed. We will have that story after this break, but first, here's a look at some other stories making headlines across the Middle East.